Assalamu alaikum, everyone. We are back again with another episode of the Crossbar Perspective podcast. And today we have been joined by another player from the women national team. We'll be talking to her about her experience in Pakistan, how she played, the football she played, the ups and downs, and all of the challenges she faced. We've been joined by Sophiya Qureshi. Assalamu alaikum, Sophia. How are you?
Assalamualaikum. I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you so much for giving your time and coming up and speaking about your experience. Let's start from the back. Where you originally started playing football? Was it in Pakistan or was it in Canada? How was it?
Yeah. So I was born in Pakistan, Karachi, and I have a pretty basic story. My brother really liked playing football, and he wanted someone to shoot on. So, we would go in the backyard, and he put me in goal. And I actually started off playing as a goalkeeper up until the age of 13, and basically just in my backyard because of my brother.
Perfect. And could you walk us through which was your first club? Was it back in Pakistan or here? And how was that experience being signed up for your first club?
So at the time when I used to play with my brother, he was already going to KU, which is Karachi United, and eventually by the age of like 8 or 7 or 8, I really also wanted to play. So my parents put me in KU as well, and there was a girls program. It was fairly new, but it was good because there was women coaches and there were age categories, and there were a lot of girls who wanted to play. So I just joined KU and I was in like the academy development. I played for a couple years,
What
and I
what
think
what was what year was that?
I was 7 or 8, so it was 10 years
Okay,
ago. It
gotcha.
was in 2014. Um, I played for a couple years, and I think I stopped. I took a little break when I was like around 11. I mean, at the time I didn't know the national team was a thing. I had no concept of women playing football in Pakistan. The only thing I knew is that I'm in this academy. They also have a women's team, and
Yeah,
I would see people like Soha and Khadija and people like that already on the women's team, but I didn't. I honestly didn't even know that they played regularly. And then when I was 13, which was end of 2020, I joined again and I started playing with the women's team for KU. So that's when I think a couple months before the start of the national championship in 2021. And yeah, so that's when I
okay.
started.
And let's talk about the what were the challenges you faced like in the start while playing in Karachi United, and you had other girls playing with you as well. What do you think was the level of competition during the camp and then the senior team as well?
So when I first joined when I was 7 years old, it was actually very nice because there were a lot of girls in my category, and I think we can credit that to the women's team and the girls who started that because they were also coaching us, and it was a really nice environment as well. I just didn't know of any pathway forward. When I joined the women's team, my that's when my parents had like some issues, and it wasn't anything to do with football. My parents are very supportive of me, but I was playing with women who were like 10 years older than me, and that was
Yeah.
just like a concern for them, and it was confusing for them also because that doesn't happen anywhere else in any other part of the world. You don't play with such big age gaps. And when I had started, it was like things were going strong. If you remember the 2021 national championship, they had
Yep.
like listed out prizes, and there were so many different categories, and there was a huge cash award, and they were organizing it, and everything was going great. I At that time I was playing for KU for the women's team, and I was
Mhm.
coming to trainings and everything, but I didn't make the cut for KU's roster, so I wasn't included for the national championship roster at that point. I still came to all the games and I supported, but I wasn't able to play. Obviously, I wasn't registered as a player, which is okay. I was 13 years old and I was a goalkeeper and I was short and stuff like that. Um, and so at that time, it seemed really great. But obviously, we all know what happened with the 2021 national championship. And
Yeah.
after that, there was basically no 11 aside football. I think that was a big challenge because we started playing futsal after that, just pick up futsal weekly. And there's no goalkeepers in pick up futsal. That's when I started playing outfield a little bit. I was learning how to pass. I didn't know the basics, stuff like that.
Okay, so you mentioned that you played with girls way too older. How did you cope up with that? Did you take it as a a learning curve? Did you learn from them? And how was that experience like playing in Karachi United? And even if we talk about the Pakistan national team, I think you are on the younger side even right now.
Yeah.
There are a lot of experienced players in the team. How does that feel like?
Well, at first in KU specifically, it was something very new for me. But honestly, I really enjoyed it because there was already people like, like there were other girls my age on that team. There was Isha and Akia and Zoya, and so I like that was kind of my friend group, and that was, I bonded with them on my level. But then everybody above me was also like super supportive and super nice, and it was definitely, I think it makes you grow up a little bit faster when you're like hanging out for a long time, regularly around people a lot older than you. But it was also still a really nice environment and community, and they were very supportive. I remember I was like, I'd be in goal, I'd be tiny, and I was 13, and I'd have like some of the biggest names, and like people 10 years older than me, like slamming shots at me. And that, I think, honestly does help you develop a lot faster and grow a lot faster as a player. On the national team side, I think for a very long time I was the youngest, so everybody was my senior,
Yeah.
and it was also different. In the start, there were still girls my age, and then in the middle there weren't, and now there's girls my age again. But um, it's I I feel good about it because it's great. They're great to learn from all my
Okay.
seniors.
Gotcha. And what position are you currently playing at? And how did you transition from a goalkeeper to that position?
So after the national championship, we didn't play any 11-side football or train. It was just recreational pickup futsal. And so
Yeah.
I would, in futsal, there's no goalkeeper. We would play five-a-side. I would play out and I would start passing around. I was very determined, and it's good. I don't completely understand why I was so determined anyway, because there was nothing to play for. But I would wake up every morning at like 5 a.m. and I would train, and I really wanted to get better, especially because I didn't know any basics being a goalkeeper. And so just passing against my room wall, it was also the pandemic. So I would miss all of my online classes and just play football in my room all day long.
Gotcha. And like, what position are you currently playing at? Sorry, in 11
So
side?
yeah, I'm playing center back. In the
Oh,
start,
okay.
I was playing full back, and there was somewhat of a transition, but I can still play both.
Gotcha. And currently, in the women championship, which happened a few months ago, if I'm not wrong, you played with Karachi City FC, right?
Yes, that's right.
So let's talk about the transition from KU to KC. We know about the rivalry. So how did you actually go from Karachi United to Karachi City, and what were the main aspects that maybe you think were the contribution factor for your transfer?
So I think I transferred in 2022. I didn't take the decision lightly at all. In fact, me and Nakia and Zoya and Ishal, all four of us, all the kids stayed back in KU, even though a lot of the older players had already moved. And we like thought it through together. And I made the decision over like a period of 8 months. And the main factor for me was honestly probably Coach Adil. His Even like when I went to KC just to like as a trial run, like he's such an amazing coach, and the environment was completely different over there. The training style was completely different, and that just made it for me.
Gotcha. And then I believe you got the call for the national camp. So what was that feeling like playing for the Pakistan national team at such an early age? How did it feel like?
So when SAF championship was happening, there was a little bit of confusion. We didn't know who was gonna be called for a trial or not, or if there were going to be trials, or like we didn't know. But there was an age restriction. If you're under the age of 17, you
Yeah,
couldn't play,
yeah.
and that also was revealed to us later on. So when that was going on, and I watched all the matches, and I like cheered everyone on, it was unreal to see that we were actually playing on an international stage. And at that point, I didn't even think like, oh, one day like I'm gonna play, or like I wasn't thinking of like me being there. But then when the trials were opened up nationally, and I obviously wanted to play for the national team, I went to the Karachi trials, and when I got my call up, I remember screaming, telling my mom. It was such a happy moment. And my mom told me when I was going to camp that like, Sophie, don't expect too much. Like going to camp amazing.
Yeah.
If you make the traveling squad, that's just the cherry on top, you know. And then camp was absolutely amazing. It's like unimaginable. And playing and making the travel squad and then actually debuting, I can't explain the feeling. Like everyone who's actually played knows what I'm talking about. But and like other of my teammates have said this too, that like it's a completely different feeling playing for a club and for a country, and you only realize it when you step on the pitch.
Yeah.
It's it's amazing.
Gotcha. Coming to the other side, the national Pakistan national team, who do you think is the most challenging player in the team? Like as a central back, I'm also a central back, so I can feel the feeling when people go past through you. Who do you think is the most skillful and challenging player in the Pakistan national team?
I don't think I can say anyone's like the most skilled player, but I think probably because I go up against her often, it's Nadia, because she's our main striker, and
Yeah,
in trainings we're very competitive with each other. We'll both be talking smack, and it's great. It's very competitive. She Nadia's movements are absolutely amazing. She's so fast. Her acceleration is insane. Like she's so explosive. She's very hard to defend.
gotcha. And what was your daily routine like during the camp and keeping up with all of the matches and all of the trainings? What was your daily routine like during the camp, obviously? Because we know besides the camp, it's really hard to keep a track of that routine when you don't have regular football going on in the country or even on the club local level. So what was your routine like?
Camp is honestly like I think every footballer's dream, because
Yeah,
it's very very football focused, as it should be. We're waking up at an average of like 4:30 a.m. every single day, and while that's very rough, it's a rough transition, especially for like a 15-year-old. Like I wasn't that level of discipline, no matter how determined I was. It's a whole new level. You're training twice a day, and everything's like catered to you as a footballer, and I think that's very amazing. All you're doing is you wake
were
up.
you continuing your studies as well while the
That
camp?
was something that was actually very very hard.
Yeah,
So with training twice a day, every other day, and then once a day every day, we had matches, we had team lunches, team dinners, team breakfast, and team meetings, and then pretty much all your other time is sleeping, because you really need to rest up. The
recover.
intensity,
Yeah.
yeah, the intensity of camp training is like it's so hard to recreate outside of camp.
Mhm.
But studies on top of that was very hard for me, just because all your time is training and sleeping and eating and meetings and stuff like that. And then obviously we're such a well bonded team that we hang out very often and every single day. Like you go to each other's rooms, you're playing games, stuff like that, team bonding. But very often what would happen, I think in the first couple camps, I didn't take my education while at camp very seriously, and that put me behind. And then I started picking up the pace. So in Saudi, the second edition, that camp was very rough for me, because I was staying up late and studying, but also waking up very early, so I wasn't getting enough rest. But it's something that I had to do, because I had my CIEs right after I
O
came back.
levels.
Yeah, I had
Hmm.
my literature and language CIEs right after I came back. And unfortunately, football's not a secure path. It's not going
Yeah.
to make your living. You need to have the same level of focus on your studies.
Gotcha. Coming back to the formats, you mentioned that you have played futsal as well, and 11 side, obviously. What do
Mhm.
you think is your favorite format, and what do you think is the format through which you learned the most? Was it futsal or was it 11 side?
So my favorite is obviously 11 aside. I'm a footballer, and that's what football is. Futsal
Yeah,
and football, I think, are completely different things.
agreed. Yeah,
But in Pakistan, you're mainly playing futsal, especially for women. There's just zero 11 aside training or matches.
yeah.
So especially because the championship was discontinued right as I joined, so there was actually nothing to train for. But we played futsal very, very often, and I think I'm not saying you learn more from futsal, but I did, just because that's what I played mainly, and I think it's very helpful in a lot of ways. Like you learn to play fast, like your skills and stuff like that get better, but it's not the same game. I think my main stepping stone definitely was camp. I barely played 11 aside before camp, and 11 aside, the tactical side is just completely different. So,
Gotcha. Okay, let's talk about the Women Championship that happened, and obviously Karachi City won the
yeah.
final against Football Factory. What do you think were your, strongholds as a team and even personally? And how do you think the opponents could have worked on something? Obviously, they had a very short training and like they made the team few months ago. So that's we know that that was a huge thing that they made it to the final. But what do you think? Where did you guys beat them actually, the field?
I think we had a very well rounded team, Karachi City,
Mhm.
and we had been training together for a while as well, especially all the local girls. I think our probably biggest strength was in the midfield. We had Soha and we had Rami and we had Lisa, and these are like very big names in football. But I don't think our competition was like, I think it was pretty competitive as well. We had two games against Legacy. One was the final,
Yeah.
but I think that our first game was probably more competitive. Maybe that's also because of the rain. I think a lot of our game was taken away because of that. But I think we had some very competitive sides as well, and that was great to see.
Gotcha. And what do you think was the most memorable moment in Karachi City or Pakistan national team camp?
Pakistan national team camp. I mean, I just started. That has to be up there in my memorable moments. And my debut was amazing because we played
Yeah,
against Comoros. We won. I got to celebrate on the pitch, and then we celebrated quite a bit after that game as well, and that was amazing. But I
gotcha.
think there's too many
What was the
moments.
match experience in Qatar in Qatar where you played against Saudi? What was that like? Especially the last match you played. How was that like? And if we compare the teams, what do you think was the difference? Obviously, they were like more trained. They had better coaches, and then they had a huge league system in Saudi. Besides that, what do you think? Were they physically fitter than you guys? How were they individually skillful than you guys? And then the team tactics, how were they?
So the experience for me personally was obviously amazing. It was everything I had dreamt for the past 2 years. I think the game itself was probably very disappointing for all the players. I mean, like I know we got an amazing goal, Sua scored, and we came out with a tie. But we're just at a point where we're holding ourselves to very very high standards and certain expectations, and I think everyone will agree, like in the team, that we didn't meet them, and that could be for a variety of things. And we didn't have an official camp, um, but I think at the end of the day, we need to take accountability for the performance regardless. We know our situation and we know that we can't change it. I think Saudi's team, I wouldn't say that they're more skilled than us, regardless of their facilities and all their resources. I think that, and I genuinely believe that we're a very skilled team and one of the
Yeah,
better teams in
definitely,
Asia, and we
definitely.
have insane potential. But then you
Yeah.
see like the difference between teams who play regularly and teams who play in every FIFA international window and teams who play once a year. Like obviously we had Saf a bit ago, but before that we hadn't played for a year, and I think that consistency just shows the consistency of our performance will vary based off of that also.
Gotcha. And do you think the Pakistani coaching was on top level? And what are your views on Coach Adil? Um, do you think we could have improved there, or was he the? According to me, he is the best thing we have right now for Pakistani football, whether it be female or male. But what do you think? Where did we lack?
I think in a lot of ways Saudi had better resources than us, like the training
Mhm.
camp and stuff like that. But one thing that I will always stand by is that I think Coach Adil's the absolute perfect coach for us, and
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
he's in my mind. Like, I've never met such an amazing coach, and I've never come across, even in Canada, coaches, you know, with his level of IQ and experience. And he's such a great coach. Whenever I go to camp, I always try my best to be like a sponge and just take in everything he says and everything everyone around me says, but especially him. Like, if we're going to watch a match, like, I'll try actively to find a seat closer to him so I can hear his comments on it. He is just he's brilliant as a coach, and he's the kind of coach who could talk about football all day long, and he could keep talking about it, and I could keep learning new things from him. And I think most of me as a player is due to him and his coaching for sure.
Are you playing football in Canada right now?
Yeah, for sure I am.
Okay, is it for a university, college, or a club?
Yeah, so I'm currently a senior in high school. Next,
Oh, okay,
the
okay.
coming year, I'll be going to university. I played up until October or late September for a team called Burlington Soccer Club
Yeah,
in the under 17 OPDL, which is Ontario Player Development League. It's
gotcha.
like the highest you can play at my
Yeah,
age.
yeah, yeah. After MLS,
And
before MLS.
yeah, and
Yeah.
then after, so that was my last season that I would be eligible to play for that. Now I move on to a category called League One or under 20 for League One. Currently, I'm there's like a trial season because I decided not to go forward with Burlington, and now I'm giving trials for various different clubs, and that process is still going on. But after that, we'll see what happens.
So if we compare the football in Pakistan and Canada, obviously, Canada, you can say like US is a bit better than Canada from what I have seen. The quality of players and then the facilities as well. How would you compare Canada's football with Pakistan football? Obviously, the highest level of football you have played in Pakistan. How would you compare that with Canada?
I think, I mean, obviously, there's a clear difference. There's structure here. And they don't even have a professional league here yet. It's in the works.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
regardless of that, they actually
I
have
believe I believe
clubs.
they have the teams in MLS.
They have one team which
One
takes
team in
part in the
MLS. Yeah,
MLS,
yeah,
but it's not their own league, and so it
yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
really
yeah.
tie into the Canadian football. They're the League One, which I was talking about. It's their main league, and they're about to make it professional in
Mhm.
2025. But as of right now, it's not a professional league, which means that the players don't currently get paid. So, but at least there's a grassroots level. There's a pathway. There's
Yeah,
you're building up, you're training kids from a young age. There's steps and categories and leagues and games and tournaments and showcases. So it's a massive difference, obviously. I think at the
gotcha.
highest level, if I'm comparing it to KCFC or if I'm comparing it to national team, I'd say the biggest difference is that obviously when you're playing at an international level, your tactical awareness and your IQ and just like their game sense, it has to be really, really top. And I think probably like national team KCFC, the IQ is higher than it is here. Even if
Okay.
the skills of the players here are is better, because obviously you're developing your technical ability at the right age. I think in
Yeah.
Pakistan, if you
That's
look
very
at
important in football, obviously. Like at a young age, if you are into football, you have
yeah,
those coaching, you'll definitely be steps ahead from the rest of the world.
yeah, like I started learning proper technique when I was 13, 14. The right age to do it is when you're 5, 6,
Yeah,
7, 8.
6.
Yeah. And if you look at like players like Nazalia, she started playing when she was 17. Soha started playing when she was 17. That's
Most of the
that's
players we
abs-
have, which are
yeah.
like experienced about 20, most of them started playing after 15 or 17 because that's the time when, Pakistani football started booming,
Yeah,
you can say,
women's
and the
football
bans were
started.
lifted and like the women football was started like few years ago. And
Yeah.
from that and where we are right now, I think it's a huge step. If we continue providing some more leagues or games, we could go some places.
Yeah. So I
Uh,
think that's why
yeah.
people here just have very sound technical ability.
Hmm.
But on the highest level in Pakistan, I think the best players in Pakistan have better tactical sense than the players here.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Who do you look up to in the Pakistan national team? One player or maybe multiple players?
I I mean, I think I look up to pretty much all of them. They're all my seniors, and I don't think I could choose one, but I think probably Soha and Maria. And I know that's cliche because they're both captains, but
Yeah,
they are the most experienced players on our team. And
definitely.
yeah,
Gotcha. Okay. Who do you think is the most funniest player on the team?
funniest player. I think if I don't say Nizalia, I would probably get an angry call. So
Gotcha. Okay. Coming to the last question, what do you think is the future of women football in Pakistan, and what do you think is your future in football? Obviously, you're still young. You can still pursue a career in Canada or maybe back in Pakistan. What are you thinking about that?
I think it's very volatile. Like I wish I could predict what's going to happen, but
Hmm.
it's not. I can tell you what I want to happen. It would be amazing to see that after elections, we work on making a domestic league and we utilize our FIFA windows and things like that. But I can't say that that's going to happen. I personally, I think I say this to so many people, but if Pakistan had football, a proper football structure, I would live in Karachi for the rest of my life. Like
Gotcha.
I love Pakistan that much. It's my home,
Yeah.
and like मुझे कहीं और रहना ही नहीं है. Like I want to live in Pakistan, but I think the main thing is the football that's stopping me.
All right. Again, thank you so much for giving your time and coming over. It was a pleasure having you and talking about your experience. I hope we'll have another talk anytime soon, maybe after some of the matches we play in Pakistan. Again, thank you so much.
Of course.
Take care. Allah Hafiz.
Thank you. Have a great night.